everybody. Welcome back to the Unfiltered podcast. My name's Katie.
And I'm Cecily.
And today we're going to be talking about self-love and what that means to us. But
please subscribe and review if you like our episode, if you liked our previous episodes.
If you have questions.
Yes, please just comment, review, subscribe, anything. Just interact with us.
Subscribe. Don't stop, though. Just thought I'd slide that in there.
Yeah, so a couple of our main points about self-love today is we just want to define what that is for us, and then as well as talk about how we practice it, and then also what the results of self-love is for us too.
Yeah, so I think for me, self-love is really hard to define, but I feel like you're really good at it, which I'm the one with words and you're the one with like design, but here you are with all the good words. But you really put it into perspective for me because you talk about like loving your future self, and obviously that's something that's in the present, but to love your future self is to love yourself right now.
Yeah.
And I think that that is something that that you do really well. And I look up to you for that for sure, because it's like, okay, Cess is always doing something now for herself later. And I'm like, maybe I should do that.
Yeah, oh my Lord, that's so sweet. Yeah, I tried to do that. I heard that, and it's really changed my mindset on how I want to do things. And then also just asking yourself if it's wise, considering your future, really helps you decide like what's good for you. And then I really like how you just tend to love yourself so unconditionally. And that is also self-love. Like you do accept, things that are aren't able to control, and then there's things that we can control, and then you work hard at those, and so that's such a testament to you. But we also think that incorporates like our definition really well.
Yeah, I mean, for me, because I do define self-love as just like full acceptance, and that goes back to the little phrase I always say, just like unapologetically me. And again, it's not in an immature way, but it is just like I am who I am, and it's not that I need to just be a people pleaser. Obviously, I take into consideration other people, but I'm just controlling the controllables. I can't have all the qualities that someone else has, but, in a self-pride type of way. I mean, it's not pride, but it is. But, like, other people don't have qualities that I have, and just use those gifts to the best of your ability because that's what you were given. Right,
exactly. And I think, again, looking at that, it's cool to admire somebody and say, hey, they get along really well with people, or they always are smiling. Some things you can take and you can start to change what you do like about somebody else and what you think is a positive thing. I think that's such a good thing. And then there's some things like, hey, she has really pretty teeth, and I'm never going to have those teeth, and certain things like that. So it's like accepting, hey, this is not ever going to change. This could change, and it could change for the better. So now let's start to...
That's a good point, because I feel like sometimes we base our self-love off of like how we look and how we can like present ourselves. But really, self-love is just like all of you, the mental, the physical, the spiritual, everything. And maybe you can't, change someone's smile or whatever, but you can take into consideration like things that other people have. I remember a friend of mine, she's always like bubbly and laughing and smiling at other people and saying hello. And I realized like how many people she would touch by doing that.
Yes.
And now I do that.
Yeah.
And now people always comment on like, oh, you always say hi to people, or you always smile at people. And I've noticed that it really makes an impact, because even walking like through the hallways of the classrooms and stuff, there's people that I see often that will now say hi to me. Instead of me having to say hi to them, they look forward to seeing me in the hallway, and they're not like looking down trying to like walk away, but they're looking up at me, smiling, and then we have a conversation. And it's just like, that's so cool to find something that I saw in someone else and apply it to my own life, and see how not only it changed like my perspective on like showing joy and like giving joy, but now people give it back to me in return.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think honestly we can probably just hop right into what we feel like self-love does for us in return, and that's what we're talking about. We think that it changes you for the better in the sense of you're comfortable, you're easy to talk to, you radiate a light. And I think if you don't love yourself, you tend to be a little bit more rude, short. I think you feel obligated to be angry when you should be.
Or like overcompensate in a sense.
Yeah, I think sometimes.
Defensive.
I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, just because you have a quote unquote right to be angry doesn't mean that you should. And like the best people that I know, like, aren't like they don't act out on that, and that's beautiful. And that comes from a sense of self-confidence, self-love, being cool with who they are, and knowing that, hey, just because someone said that to me or did this to me doesn't change
Yeah.
who I am.
Who I need to be.
Who I am, who I need to be doesn't change by day. Like, I'm not going to let this ruin my day. Like, someone has a lot of control if they can ruin your day over something they said or did to you. And now, obviously, there's circumstances that surely does
Boundaries.
happen. But, I really admire, you can tell when someone has confidence and love towards themselves and the way that they treat others and the way that they respond to others, scrutiny or something.
And obviously, I guess we could get into it now, but like giving and receiving self-love, that when you love yourself, you realize that you're not competing with somebody else. And I probably saw this on a meme somewhere, and I don't know who to attribute this quote or thought to, but it is just this beautiful peacock, and then there's another similarly beautiful peacock next to it. And it's like, loving yourself is being able to appreciate someone's beauty without doubting your own.
Yeah.
And I think that's so cool, is like, especially as like women, like we're torn down enough, like by social media, certain standards, whatever. But
by ourselves.
By ourselves as well.
Like
the mirror,
yeah.
We think that our worth comes from our physical appearance. But we're ironically taught that at a young age, but obviously it doesn't. Like, we're worth so much more than our physical features. But how cool is it when we can like appreciate someone's beauty and let them know that, as well as like not let that take us down as well. Which is so hard in today's like standard of social media too, because everything is filtered, it could be photoshopped or angles, if you just hit the right angle, it's like, dang, she looks good. But if you hit a different angle, you're like, oof, I don't look so good today.
Yeah, I think going off that is, when you have self-love and self-confidence, you can start to ask yourself why you do what you do. So it doesn't even have to be social media. It's just a very easy thing to look at to ask yourself this, but it's like, why do you post what you post?
Yeah.
Like, are you posting this to get attention? Well, do you need attention to fulfill this
Does the
love
number
that you
of
lack?
likes
Determine
how you feel?
Right, and that's fulfilling your self-love. Well, that's a self-love that's not going to last, and you need to repost to get that feeling again.
Empty.
It's very empty, and so I think that when you can start asking yourself that, and I think that's a huge first step to practicing your self-love is asking yourself hard questions, intentions, like why are you doing what you're doing, and that can even be professional. Like, I think just, why am I taking this professional step, or why am I going out of the way to talk to this person? It could be completely genuine, and that's amazing, should be a good thing. But are you doing it for other motives? Like, are you doing it to look good?
Status. Exactly.
You just need to find your comfort in being who you are and loving the qualities about you. And so I think that's ever changing too. But if we want to talk about practicing self-love, how do you do that?
How do I practice self-love? Honestly, there's multiple ways that I do it, but I think a consistent way that I have realized, especially like going back to my perfectionistic, I don't want to call it an issue, but my tendencies. I think for me, it's just helpful to love the imperfections. So love the messy, laugh at myself daily, which I always do anyways, whether it's laughing at my own jokes or just laughing at the weird things that happen to myself. There's endless stories that happen. But I think it's just consistently like not taking myself so seriously, because I'm not that important in the grand scheme of things. Like, yes, I'm important to, the world and everything like that. I think I have value, but at the same time, like, I'm not so important that people really care. You know, like,
right.
And that sounds
but
weird
it's
in a sense.
I know what
like,
you're saying.
Don't take yourself so seriously.
Right.
'Cause it's like, what? Who cares?
Why does my thought like always go back to social media? I don't.
Mine
it's
does
because
too.
it's exactly because it's our generation right now. But
It is. It's our life.
I had to go back and to tell myself, like, you can get off social media for a week or a month and no one's honestly going to notice. And if they do notice, it might be a few people out of the whatever
It's
thousand
me, 'cause
people.
I can't tag you in
right?
anything.
Exactly. But you just think that someone's really missing you, and you're like, well, like, your close people, the people you interact with the most might. But other than that,
But even the people that you interact with the most aren't gonna like.
well, they're gonna text you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
they
they're
might
gonna
care that
text
you're
you.
not on social media, like me.
They don't
I can't send you
care, but they
memes all the
notice.
time.
Or they notice. They don't care, and then no one else. I used to do this, so I'm laughing at myself too. People are like, okay, I'm gonna be off social media. Like, you post this, I'm gonna be off social media for a week. Don't if you.
Here's my number.
Right, and so, anyways, this is not gonna go off on tangent on that, but like, that is hilarious because really? If
That
you didn't
defeats
say
the
that? No, if
purpose.
you didn't say it, no.
Yeah.
Like, 100% no
Yeah.
one would know.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so you were, yeah. So, sorry, I was interrupting you.
No, that's so true though, because that is part of self-love. It's just like, you know, sometimes like the world becomes overwhelming, or just life in general, or thoughts, or maybe your self-love is being tainted, and some of those things you have to cut off. So I think part of self-love is actually knowing like when you need a break from something.
Yeah.
Whether it's like someone, something, you know, maybe it's just like a season, like your job's really hard, or school is really hard, or just family issues. Like sometimes removing yourself from a situation is all you need.
Yeah.
And I think we forget, especially, it's ironic because we live in a very selfish society, but we also live in a society that's an oversharing society, which is, to me, an oxymoron. But sometimes like not sharing and like cutting yourself off from things is actually more self-love than continuing to feed into that, and like you said, like gaining like fake acceptance from likes or whatever.
Yeah, I have kind of two different sides of that. So I have this idea of cancel culture nowadays, where it's like people think that they just need to cut off toxic people. They need to remove people. I'm not quite fully, I don't really agree with that in the sense of specifically being a Christian, but also I do agree with, you need to know when someone is literally sucking the life out of you, or when, you know, this person is a 5-minute person and not a
5-hour person.
Yes, 100%. You have like your 5-year people, your 5-minute people, and you have your 5-hour people, you know, or I've heard that before, and they used it in different, like they might have used it in different time increments, but it was basically saying you kind of have to know like where people fit maybe in the sense of like filling your cup, and some people just tend to be a little bit more draining, and I think if we're talking about the subject, they probably don't have a whole lot of self-love.
Yeah.
So I think what you were basically saying, and I'm running off of it, but you were also considering like rest as part of your self-love. Like you need to know when you need to rest from something specifically, in particular. So that's really good.
Yeah. And I think kind of when you were talking about like 5-minute people, whatever, I think that's obviously a form of self-love, to be self-aware enough to know that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we think that we not necessarily owe people that time, but like we give people sometimes more time than they necessarily deserve, or that is healthy for us. So I think just making sure that your relationships in general are fueling your self-love. And that kind of sounds selfish, but at the same time, it's like considering your future self. You know, is this relationship going to help me? And not that all relationships have to like help you get somewhere, but like, is this relationship making me a better person? So, you know, like, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. If I look at my friends, I'm like, I have a really cool future, because like they're really successful. Like
that's
a
cool.
few of them have doctors and nurses, and I have like all these cool, successful people in my life, and I'm like, all right, I am destined for greatness, you know? So it really is like loving yourself helps when you love other people, but are those other people loving you back and filling your cup, and like the time in which you're spending with them, is that helping your future self?
Yeah, I think another thing to bounce off that, but it also goes into another aspect of self-love and practicing it, is like filtering what you're taking in.
Yeah.
And whether that's social media, whether that's music, whether that's
what people are saying to you in general.
So that's where I think it's tying in, because if someone that you spend time around is not really talking about the things that really you value, or just honestly just far off of like what you want to talk about, maybe not appropriate or whatnot, but you have to know like hearing those and consuming that is not a good thing.
Yeah.
So now we have to limit that, and that is self-love. It's not a disrespect to like it's not disrespectful to them. They just you know what you want to be and who you want to be, and I think to align that with the people you're around and spending time with, I think if you would have spent 10 hours with them, you start to believe, or you start to hear, or start to accept the things that they're doing. You might not even think you believe it, or you think you're going to change into them, but you start to accept the ways that they're doing things.
Well, I mean, if you think about, this is a silly example, but just like being around somebody and you start picking up the things that they say.
Yes.
Just like, I will mimic you and things. And it's not even that like I'm mimicking it anymore. I literally say random things now that I'm like, oh yeah, you wouldn't get why I'm saying that, because you don't understand. Like,
right.
shucky darn, right?
Yeah, shucky darn.
Like oofta is a word that I say a lot, and I can tell people who have been around me a lot because they now say oofta, and not only do they say oofta, but they shorten it to just oof.
Yeah.
And I already know what they're saying.
Yeah.
I'm like, you have spent way too much time around me.
Yeah, no, that's so true. But just what are you consuming, and that does include people, and that kind of can sound bad. I'm not, like I said, I'm not agreeing with cancel culture, like cutting people out, isolation, those things, types of things that come
That's
from.
like one of the one things in your life that should be filtered.
Right. Yeah, and I
really filtered.
Yeah, and I think that you can encourage people. You can, do X, Y, and Z without canceling people out of your life. Like, so I think that's important for me to know before I sound like I'm just saying cut everyone out of your life. I'm not about that. I think that that's not necessarily what needs to be. So yes.
I mean, you made a good point a little while ago that sometimes it's the people that are the hardest to love that really need the most love.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes like showing somebody how to love themselves, like through you loving yourself, And that can even go back to boundaries. Like boundaries is in essence self-love. And that can go back to like saying no to things, saying yes to things. And I've always said, like, if you're saying yes to something, make sure that you're not saying no to yourself. And going further, no to your future self. So is this an opportunity that's going to fulfill me in some sense, or is this something that's going to essentially suck the life out of me? But I feel I have to do that to help this person. And so just having those boundaries and like the appreciation or enough self-respect to say no to people when you know that it's not going to be helpful, and to make sure that like you're aware of, okay, this is a 5-minute person, not necessarily a 5-day person. So
but we're going to give it our all, and we're going to love them in that 5 minutes, that 10 minutes. We're
absolutely.
not changing who we are. Like, that's what I think sometimes gets, that can sound negative. But it's like, hey, we have this, I'm going to get coffee for an hour, and I might not see you very much. And maybe that is because we just feel like, our relationship isn't thriving. But it's like, hey, I'm going to love you for the hour. Yeah. And I'm going to, I'm invested in you for the hour. Yeah. Like we don't care about people any less. And I think that can come off that way. We don't at all. But going off of just considering your future self and talking a little bit about physical, how do you take care, what does self-love look like physically? Taking care of your body, I guess.
Physically taking care of my body, for me, it's exercise. Like I love fitness, and I sometimes get a lot of flack for this, but like I will not run. Like, that is just the dumbest thing to me.
The funniest thing, I can't hear you say you won't run without saying it's a nerve for you. You just say that. Sorry.
All right. So one of the sayings that I often say is that, like, run spelled backwards is ner, and it's always a ner for me. Like, I just don't like it. And so when it comes to, like, loving your body and loving yourself, like, do something that you really enjoy doing. Like, love your body. And if it's, like, not something that's, like, culturally normal, like to run, like I feel like everyone likes to run. I'm like, all right, if you see me running, please come save me because I am unwell.
Because you do not want to be running.
I'm not wanting to run. But I think really just like, I think physically feeling my body, whether it's like through pain and pleasure of working out, I just feel like I am so connected in that sense. And I feel like that's similar to you too. But also I just appreciate like how I look. Like, obviously I was blessed with good genetics. Like, I'm not even going to say that I wasn't, but even if I look differently, like, unless I want to get plastic surgery, I'm probably not going to look any different. And
like, again, accepting that.
And accepting that.
Because there are going to be people, I mean, that's just really common. It's not common for a girl to be like, oh, I love how I look. So, if you're listening to this, it's a little bit of an acceptance of, hey, these are the genetics I've been given, and I am going to work on myself from the inside out to radiate that.
And like, I feel, I've said this before, like, I think some of my beauty just comes from my personality and my love for myself.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
And my love
100%.
for life.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's
if you were a grouch, you would not be beautiful.
Could you, like, and that's so true. Like, mean girls, like, they can be stunning on the outside, but you're like, you're such an ugly
I wouldn't want to be a friend. Yeah, like, automatically that's not really worth it.
Yeah, like, you just immediately attribute them to be uglier.
Right.
In a sense, that's not good. But how do you take care of yourself besides running?
Yeah, I've currently been running a lot. But yeah, I love exercise too. I love lifting, and I think that helps you love your body because you see the discipline and the hard work just like totally translate to your life, like in so many different aspects besides physical. But it's cool to see your body work hard and be able to accomplish new things and that type of thing that training will get for you. So I love that. And I do 100% think that's a self-love, considering your future self, your future health. So I think that's super important for physical well-being. But I also think, we mentioned rest earlier.
Sleeping.
Walking outside, anything that
walks.
walks
We're
outside.
like the walking queens.
We are.
Quarantine was just like a walk every day.
Exactly. Exactly. But it's like sometimes the outdoors for people is
neat. Nature.
Gosh. So, oh my word. But
sorry.
No, it's okay. I just think sometimes people are like, I don't really love exercise. I do think it's worth getting into, but also if you don't like nature, just walking outside, just kind of appreciating anything but your phone.
Yeah.
That's pretty simple.
There's so much beauty around.
It's okay to be bored. That's a whole other topic, but
just essentially boredom is just being alone with yourself.
Yeah, and just
can you do that?
I think processing your thoughts and that type of thing. I think that contributes to self-love too. Just being able to, just process feelings, thoughts, those types of things that we're uncomfortable with nowadays.
And that's pure self-awareness too.
Self-awareness.
If you feel,
equals self-love.
Honestly, and we're done.
No.
Can you say that again louder for the people that didn't hear us the first time?
I said self-awareness is self-love.
It really is.
And
wow.
That's done. With that being said, but
let's
marinate that for a second. But that's so true. And I read a study about that. They're like, your self-awareness is actually a very big factor of success. They're like, they say it's grit, they say it's like hard work, and all these CEOs they say it's that, but then they were like, well, we can take deeper into it, and it's like the self-awareness of who you are, and then working on.
Well, that's like pure emotional and emotional regulation as well. Like if you can regulate your emotion, kind of like when you were talking about how people have a reason to be angry, but they're not angry.
Yes.
That's pure emotional regulation, and that is such a high level of intelligence to be able to say like, I'm sad, this is why. And this is what I'm going to do about it. Because a lot of people just say like, I'm sad. Sad is bad. Let's not do that. Let's do this. And it's like, is it really good to like divert yourself, or is it good to just sit with that sadness, understand it, listen to it, and then learn from it?
Yeah.
Because because if a situation like that happens again, you're like, oh, I felt this way before. I'm not afraid of it. Yeah. This is what I'm going to do with it.
Yeah.
And that could be exercise. That could be going for a walk. That could be hanging out, going to coffee with a friend. Like, like the remedies that you need to love yourself the best. And loving yourself is loving yourself like through all the emotions. Like no emotion is bad. No emotion is wrong. Just sit with it, understand it, and then figure out what you want to do with it.
Yeah, I love that. So I'm literally just going to repeat what you just said.
Go for it.
In a different way.
I love it.
But I heard something about feelings, and they were like, you don't want to shut them out. But you, like, if we're talking about a car, you don't want to shut them out of your car. You don't want them to drive your car, but you want them to sit with you, and you want to have control of it. You want to still be driving the car. So you want to be able to analyze, hey, why is this there? Or, hey, this made me happy. Or, hey, why did this make me happy? If you can analyze, if you can take everything, but have control, and then just think about, why did I feel this way? That type of thing.
I love that. That is so true, because I feel like that.
Feelings aren't a bad thing. We've been given feelings for a reason. They're amazing.
It's a protective mechanism,
right?
Honestly.
So we shouldn't shut them out, but we also shouldn't let them just drive our decisions.
Life.
And So, we can go into that a whole different time, but that is definitely a good point.
I like that.
Yes.
So really, our takeaways are self-awareness is self-love.
Yes.
So like with that, it's okay to have emotions. Pay attention to yourself now, and make sure it's loving your future self. What am I missing?
And then just knowing when you need to take a break and take a rest.
Take care of yourself. Love yourself physically, mentally, emotionally.
Yeah.
Oh, we went over it all.
We went over it all, and we can go into it more later too.
We could preach. In my Cecily hand gestures, we could preach.
But that's it for today.
I think that's it. So we could just say, love yourself.
Love yourself.
Treat yourself.
And subscribe.
Treat yourself right.
And subscribe.
Don't stop. I'm kidding. But if you have questions, comments, concerns, criticisms, future ideas for podcasts, something to add to what we just talked about,
we will take it.
We'll take all the suggestions you have. So
thank you.
That's a wrap.